So to this, let's see, this month's theme is divine discontent. No, divine discomfort. Right? They kind of go hand in hand. Divine discontent, divine discomfort. So I might be having divine discontent because Spirit wants me to do something different, wants me to change, and it can feel uncomfortable, right? So today's talk goes hand in hand with that. Where comfort ends, transformation begins. And because it's Black History Month, we are going to highlight another amazing Black woman's story. And it's a story that models how, when we get uncomfortable, transformation can happen. So once upon a time in a very small town called Nutbush, Tennessee, a young girl named Anna Mae Bullock was born. Little did the world know that this resilient soul would eventually conquer her fears, overcome violence, and rise to become a true icon of strength and inspiration. Anybody have a guess on who that is? Oh, yeah, you're good. So Anna Mae discovered at a very young age her passion for music. And so she wanted to follow that dream. And so as she got older, she joined a church choir to hone her musical skills. And one day, there was a talented musician in the audience who saw a lot of potential in Anna Marie. And so he offered her a job with his band. And that was Ike Turner. Of course, she wanted to follow her dream, so she said yes. And she became the music partner, and they became partners outside of music also. And as we have heard, right, their relationship took a turn for the dark side, and he became very controlling and verbally and physically, emotionally abusive. Well, Tina Turner reached down in the depths of her soul and connected with that powerful presence within her that gave her the courage to, in 1976, to actually leave that relationship. So she just left, and she let go of everything she had built up until that point. The only thing she took with her was her stage name, Tina Turner. So on her path to success, she, encountered tons of obstacles. One was she was rejected. She had financial challenges. She had her own personal challenges, but she never let those challenges define who she was. She kept moving forward and sharing her gifts of her talents with the world. In the 80s, Tina Turner's career really started to blast off, and she came out with these beautiful songs that she shared with us called What's Love Got to Do with It, right? Private Dancer, and also Simply the Best, right? Tina Turner became a music icon. But not only that, because she stood in her truth and lived authentically, she shared her struggles with people. She inspired thousands and thousands of people to get out of situations that could have been abusive. And so she used her platform to speak her truth and inspire others to create a greater life for themselves. So it's a beautiful example of how when we are in discomfort, we need to change, and how we have that power within us that can give us the courage to move forward and make those changes in our lives, which require uncomfortableness, but it also allows us to transform our lives. So I'm really gratitude for Tina Turner, for having the strength and the courage to live her life out loud, to share her struggles with humanity, and to inspire and bring hope and faith to so many people in the world, right? We all can do that. We can do that. Here's a quote from The Science of Mind that goes like this: God is more completely expressed through the person who lives largely than through the one who lives meagerly. Fear is a belief in limitation, a denial that the divine is the center and the source of all good, and we must do everything in our power to overcome it. So, coming back to today's talk title, where comfort ends, transformation begins. And here's a question for you. Has anybody else been experiencing uncomfortableness because our dear Juanita is leaving? I'm not the only one. All right, yeah. So when Juanita first told me of the possibility that she might be leaving, within a minute, I noticed that I was starting to get a migraine in my eye. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm experiencing a little stress over this possibility. And so I took some deep breaths and I reminded myself of the truth, that everything we have, everything that we need and more, we already have, because we're living in the life that is God's life, right? And because I'm so steeped in this philosophy, I live from a solid foundational belief that the highest and best is always unfolding in, through, and as us, all of us, because the universe cannot be divided against itself. So what's good for one of us is good for all of us. And I'm grateful to know this truth. And so also I was able to see the possibilities, the opportunities that we have as a community to open up to new ideas, to come together and be creative. So just so you know, our board has come together and we're being trained from Juanita, and so we're learning things that Juanita has been doing for us for all these years, and it's creating a stronger foundation for us as an organization. So not just one person knows so much, right? And from our Science of Mind point of view, the comfort zone, which we've been in, right, while she's been with us, represents a state of familiarity and routine, where we feel safe and secure. But it's also a place where we may experience stagnation and limited expansion. So I can say that I've felt safe and secure having Juanita with us, because she's got our backs, right? And also God's got our backs, right? So the opportunity that exists for us when we step out of our comfort zones is we get to open ourselves up to new experiences, to challenges, and opportunities to discover more about ourselves. Things that we didn't know we could do, right? Change is hard, but we can do hard things. So it requires stretching beyond our familiar boundaries that allows for that personal transformation and expanded awareness and the realization of untapped potential. And this reminds me about the story of the lobster. I don't know if you've heard the story, maybe some of you have, but in order for a lobster to grow, it actually has to break out of its shell. And amazing things happen, transformation happens within a lobster in order for it to grow. First of all, it starts growing a new shell underneath the hard one. And so a lot of the calcium from the hard shell goes into these things near the stomach. Forget what they're called. But the whole process is called ecdysis, shedding, ecdysis. And because a lobster spends a lot of its time growing, it has to go through this process of ecdysis many times in its life. And one of the things that it does is it puts itself into a V shape, and it lays on its side. I mean, this is just fascinating to me. It lays on its side, and the appendages start to shrink down even, so that it's easier to get out of the shell, right? And then at some point it starts taking in a lot of water, like a lot of water, so it's expanding, right? Eventually it takes in so much water that the old shell breaks off. It sloughs off, it sheds its old shell. But what's even more interesting is during this transition time, it's like a little black rubber toy. And then when it takes on the water, right, and it gets bigger and bigger, it changes color. And that calcium that was in the stomach gets absorbed, and it goes and it strengthens and hardens the shell. All that has to happen for a lobster to grow. Isn't that amazing? And it reminds me of us as human beings, that every day around 330 billion new cells are produced in our bodies. And within 80 to 100 days, we're like a new person. Isn't that amazing? So change has to happen in order for us to grow and for life to exist. Otherwise, we would experience atrophy. And just remember that we are part of the body of God. So as each one of us is producing a new us every 80 to 100 days, it's also the body of God that is changing. And because that intelligence that knows how to make those 330 billion cells is within us, and knows how to have the lobster create a new shell for itself, we know that the life of God knows exactly what it needs to do for the highest and best to unfold. So that's individually and collectively. So for us, as the Sierra Center for Spiritual Living, there is that intelligence moving through each one of us, which creates this beautiful expression as our center. So there's nothing to fear but fear itself. And that reminds me of another quote from our Science of Mind textbook. And it goes like this: "Fear brings limitation and lack in its wake and destroys the happiness and possibility of a greater degree of livingness to those who suffer from it. Fear blocks the more complete givingness of the spirit to its highest form of manifestation on this planet, which is humankind." So as human beings, of course, it's natural for us to feel fear at times of uncertainty. So just have compassion with yourself if you notice that you go into fear. And we can look at fear as a friendly reminder when it comes knocking at our door. Oh, it's time to get my mind back in alignment with the truth and to do our spiritual practice, to know that we are in God and everything and more we need is already available. So let's see. And guess what? The good news is we don't have to know all the details of how it's going to happen. We don't know how our body knows how to beat its heart and breathe. We don't know any of that. But the infinite mind does know that. We just have to know that the infinite intelligence is working through us always. And our job is to place our desires into that one mind that knows how to bring our desires into our reality now. That's our job, to place our desires into the one mind. So I'm going to take us through a little exercise today. If you don't have a pencil and a card, just grab one. But they're in the seats in front of you. There's either a 3x5 card or a piece of paper. Thanks, Juanita. And so we're going to go within and discover, we're going to ask our higher wisdom self a few questions. And you can take these with you throughout the week. So I'm just going to invite us to get really comfortable in our chairs. And begin to give your body permission to relax. Maybe scan your body from the head to the feet. Just notice if there's any tightness or tension. Feel free to stretch. And take some deep breaths. Let go of all the busyness of the day or those football plans. And see if we can allow ourselves to be here right now in this one moment. For this moment is all we have. And I invite you to just feel into the presence that's in this room, and the presence that's within you. And just know that there is that inner wisdom within you that has all the answers to all the questions. And so today we're going to ask our higher wisdom self the first question. And the first question is, what are some limiting beliefs that may be holding me back from stepping outside my comfort zone? What are some limiting beliefs that may be holding me back from stepping outside my comfort zone? And just take a moment to feel in and listen. And then the second question is, what are some strategies that I can use for managing fear and embracing discomfort while going through change? What are some strategies that I can use for managing fear and embracing discomfort while going through change? Yes, what are some strategies that you can use for managing fear and embracing discomfort while going through change? And then our final question is, what new strategy or strategies can I incorporate today? What new strategy or strategies can I incorporate today? Now I invite you to begin to bring your awareness back to this room. Thank you for participating in this exercise. And I'm just going to ask Does anyone feel like sharing anything that came up for them? Because I would be happy to bring you the mic. Any insights or wisdom that came to you that you may feel comfortable sharing? Rev Barb. Thanks, Madeline.
I've come to the conclusion that it's time for me to move from the place that I've been living in near Ananda, up in the hills. And I've lived there since I left my church in the community. And part of me wants to, I'll find another place in that area. But that's not what Spirit's saying. Spirit is telling me to come to town and to find a place and that I could be more active in the community here and whatever else is trying to happen. And I notice there's a part of me that wants to go, but I'm already living there and I don't have to move and, but I really do need to move. It's not working for me. So it's just an interesting struggle because there's a part of me, I go, my thoughts are in the way of my own, positive energy. And that's not, I'm usually pretty positive about stuff. So I go, okay, tell him. You'll be embarrassed, but tell him. It's like, okay, what's the big deal? I've done worse. So anyway, I just feel that the presence of this community and the fact that I am a science mind minister and I should be doing it more. I want to do it more or choose to do it more. And how can I be helpful in the community because of letting go of that, whatever that is. Anyway.
Thank you so much, Rev Barb. Appreciate that. Yeah. Anyone else feel like they want? Linda.
I've been doing emotional release work with people ever since I got abducted by a UFO. And everybody thought it was crazy. But we hold pain in our organs, like liver is anger, it has 4 layers, fear is the back. The way to release it is by feeling it instead of keeping it inward. There's all places that we hold pain in our bodies. So if you're in pain, just feel it and breathe it and accept it, because there's a lot of stuff from the past that we're holding on to as children, So that doesn't need to be there anymore. All right.
Thank you, Linda.
What came to me, well, first of all, the limiting thought was I'm too old to do new things. And I want to let that one go. And so what I remembered was angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. So humor is very helpful to overcome fear and all that other stuff.
Yes, thank you so much, Rev Lanny. Anyone else?
Oh,
Terry.
There she is.
For me, it was releasing old criticism of myself by myself and of others, which is an old habit, and it doesn't serve me, not well. And focusing on my energies on adapting to what nurtures me. Things I could do today. One of them is just become more conscious of the tone of my own voice when I'm speaking with people. So that I'm truly present. I don't have any residue carrying around feelings about other stuff that doesn't really belong there. And it makes it easier for me to respond to them and for them to respond to me without getting in a funny habit of stuff.
Thank you so much, Terry. Anyone else? Carol.
Good morning. Some of the limiting beliefs in my thoughts have been that because of my current health barriers, I have a chronic condition that has, in my own thinking, has created this health barriers are my limitation to reframing myself in my new careers, retired early because of that. So it's something that my higher self needs to get out of the way, my own self has to get out of the way of the higher self. So that has been in the front and center over the last few weeks. And just to allow Spirit to guide the way instead of my expectations of what I think I should be doing, right? So thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone else? Cynthia.
Mine is that I'm enough as I am, because I grew up thinking you needed other people to give you everything. And a lot of that, I had an alcoholic father, and I don't need to go into all my history, but it creates that dependency that somehow you can't take care of yourself. And I'm still working on that, but I've come quite a ways with that. So, because if a God created me, it's like saying, well, if God created you and you're not enough for this or that, what are you saying about that creator, and what is your relationship with that creator? So I've been working on this one for a long time.
Beautiful. Thank you, Cynthia. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you all for sharing. I really appreciate it. Yeah, and just as a reminder, we can do this at any time. Tap into our higher wisdom self, that infinite spirit that knows all. So in closing, I'll end with this quote, which was in yesterday's Science of Mind magazine from Ernest Holmes. In gladness, then, we should make known our desires, and in confidence we should wait upon the perfect law to manifest through us. Our part is to be ready and willing to be guided into truth and liberty. And so it is.